it's so important before you start your fitness journey or any journey that you understand where you're starting, because basically your current health is the starting point of your journey. And if you are in a good shape, you can start with higher intensity, higher effort, higher level of difficulty for the exercises. But if your starting point is lower, of course you cannot expect to start like someone who is training consistently for years. This is the point. So that's why it's so important to have a clear idea where we're starting and what are the realistic goals that we can achieve in a certain amount of time in order to have like even a better fitness plan. So let's try to understand where to start. So 3 pillars for your health story. The first one is the physical health. How is your physical health status? Let's say, do you think yourself is in a good shape, like in excellent health status? You are in the average, or you have a poor health condition? This is the point. So of course, if you are in an excellent health status, you can go with a very good starting point. Let's say you start with a better starting point compared to other people. If you start from a poor condition, no worries, it's improvable. But of course you cannot start with advanced programs. This is the thing. And what about the mental health? Because we need to focus even on the mindset, the motivation, and the relationship that you have with fitness and food. Probably this one is, in the past I was just focusing on this one, to be honest. With my clients I was checking their physical condition and the nutritional condition, but this was totally wrong, and this is something that changes so much, because even the mental health is so important, because some people can be like in a good shape but they cannot commit, they cannot have like the motivation to be consistent, they have a bad relationship with fitness, with food, whatsoever. So of course their tendency to progress will be much lower. Differently, someone who starts in a poor condition but has a very good mindset, like you know that you give them the plan and everything and the person will follow through perfectly. This person, even starting with much worse condition, will achieve much more results, trust me. That's why it's so important. And of course in our journey what we want to do is to help you to first of all understand how the body works, how your condition will improve, and then get free from any calculation, any stuff, in order to live like passively your best condition ever. This is the point. But of course if we don't understand how does it work, we cannot start with that. And one method to do that is starting with understanding the concept of calories, training, etc. So I understand that sometimes it can be difficult depending the relationship that you have with fitness and food. For example, if you don't like to weigh yourself in the morning, it's difficult to have data about the weight and how it's progressing your body. Yeah, there are the picture, yeah, there is the strength and whatsoever, but this is another factor that is so important. If you are in a bad relationship with counting calories, for example, this is another big factor that will affect your journey, because for example, I know that we are kind of slaves of application that counts our calories, etc. But if we don't have the data, how can we check and improve over time? This is the point. The point is not to be a slave forever to these apps or to the weight in the scale. The point is to understand how we're regulating ourselves with those data and then trying to improve to the point that we don't need them anymore. This is the real key. This is what we want, like starting to understand why they are so important till the point you don't need them anymore. This is our goal. And that's why even the mental health is so important. But even the lifestyle factors, because we need to understand your daily routines, the work-life balance and time availability. Because, be honest, like, how is your routine? How many hours do you sleep in the night? What about your work-life balance? Do you work like the whole day and then you dedicate zero time to yourself? So you have even like zero time availability? This is the point, is to understand your starting point. So this is in order to check basically where you start in terms of physical health, mental health, and lifestyle. Then self-awareness. This is very important because if we don't know ourselves and how we react, we cannot set achievable goals and we get overwhelmed, because we can think like we're going perfectly, etc., and then we have a poor health condition, a very bad relationship with food and scale and whatsoever, but we think the opposite. If you're not self-aware, basically this will be difficult, because this will stop or limit your improvement. So that's why it's so important. But this is a judgment-free zone, so we don't want to judge you, but the thing is that we need to understand where you start. So it's not to judge, it's to understand the starting point, because this is a self-assessment that you can do on your own to understand where you are. So yeah, this is very important. Let's do some practical examples. So physical health, for example, you start with a limited stamina and maybe you just work 10 minutes daily. In this case, you cannot start a program where you expect to run a lot, because of course you're starting that you don't even work regularly. This is the thing. Mental health. If you feel discouraged by comparisons, because maybe like in the group chat there are other people doing great, but you feel discouraged because you can't keep the pace, we need to understand how does it work in your mind in this sense. Of course, comparison is the thief of joy in any case, but sometimes being in social environments can stimulate each other. That's why it's so important to understand how your mind works, and that's why we need to understand your starting point from that point of view. But for example, you enjoy small wins. And lifestyle factors, so maybe you have like a busy work schedule. Okay, you have just 20 minutes a day in order to exercise. They can be enough. We can regulate better the diet, this kind of stuff, no worries, but it's important to understand where do you start. That said, what we learn from this example, we recognize the need for short and manageable workouts in this example. We identify that small wins in your case can boost motivation, but at the same time the comparison with others will decrease your motivation. That's okay, we can work on both sides. What are the next action steps? So first of all, reflect on your health story. So you need to provide, you need to use the provided worksheet that we will do, by the way. So with the coaches we do like all the data, we collect all the data, we see your starting point, etc., and what we can improve in terms of physical, mental health and lifestyle. And then we identify strengths and challenges, like the example before for comparison and small wins. And then we need to set like the intention for change. So basically the plan that we can do. If you do on your own, so check these points and then identify one small step that you can take already this week in order to progress, because this is the point. Of course, if you want to work one-to-one with a coach, we have our expert inside the group that we will help you to achieve whatever you want. I mean, not whatever you want, what realistic to achieve, let's say. And we will help you to in your journey, definitely. So we can help you understand your starting point, your realistic results, because in this world there are always claims about perfection, impossible changes in an amount of time that is insignificant. The reality is that it will take longer, it will be difficult. I know, this is against the marketing stuff. If I promise you like in 30 days you will change your life, you will be from severely obese to perfectly fit. This is not realistic, guys. And even when people ask me to join for 1 month, guys, what you want to do in 1 month? We need to be realistic. That's why it's so important. My time is precious as it's yours. I don't want to waste your time telling yourself that we will change your life in 1 month, but at the same time you need to be realistic. It will require time, it will require effort. Yeah, for some people can look like effortless. I understand. For some people that maybe they're used to harder stuff, for them can be easier. I understand, and this is 100% possible. For others can look like impossible, because maybe they've been like the whole life on the couch, like on the sofa, resting and this kind of stuff. I understand. That's why like a personalized coaching program will help you to start from zero, wherever is your starting point, to improve your condition. Maybe if you start like severely obese, etc., you will never run a marathon, for example, even though it's realistically possible, to be honest. It depends how much is your motivation to do that, and how much we can build discipline over the journey. But okay, let's say realistic. Most of the obese people will never do a marathon. Okay, this is realistic. But this doesn't mean that you cannot do that. But at the same time, we can tell you that maybe if you want, we can achieve that. But if you don't, and if you just want to be a bit healthier, that's okay. We will not tell you that you will do the marathon in 6 months, because maybe this is not realistic. That's the point. So whenever you want, be free to book the free call with us, and if you want, join the group where all these lessons will be shared. And well, wish you the best in both cases.